Jake wants to know about our level of worry with Jamari Harris. Seems like he was picked on a lot last year, maybe because they weren't throwing the ball DeJean's way, but still, I think he'll step up, Don. That's typically, he was the guy that was going to get thrown to a lot because of the guy that was on opposite side of the field. I think you're going to get John Nestor, Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall, whoever's starting opposite of Jamari, thrown to more than Jamari.
Yeah, that causes me to flash back on our championship game against Michigan. And I think I mentioned this on your show, Corey, but I knew this for a fact because I went back and checked. I just had a sneaking suspicion, and I was right. In that game, we had a really, really good quarterback on one side and a quarterback on the other side that was not as good. Michigan, 8 times in that game, threw the ball underneath. And I'm not trying to beat up on Deshaun. I'm simply saying Deshaun was obviously a better matchup for Michigan. 8 times in that game, they threw completions, 8 out of 8, underneath Deshaun Lee. And in almost every case, it was for a key first down. But my point is, and you've heard me say this before, Corey, it's not enough to have an All-American corner at one side. The question is, how about the other guy? Can he hold up also? And he doesn't have to be an All-American. Ideally, he would be, of course, but we've got good examples. You remember the Purdue game from years ago. It was it Desmond King on one side, I think?
No. You know what? I believe that was either Matt Hankins or Michael Ojemudia on one side, but that was 2018, I believe. And that was Anthony Mahungu for Purdue that got about 3 or 4 straight go routes down the sidelines. I mean,
they actually threw him the ball 4 out of 5 snaps, and they had two touchdowns to show for it. And it all started in the second half, and it all ended maybe with 10 minutes still on the clock in the third quarter. And I'm sure that stuck with Phil. And at that point, Phil changed. The instruction then was, I don't care where that guy goes, you're going to go with him. And they were simply lining him up into the boundary and throwing the ball to him and picking up on our weaker corner. Another example that comes to mind, you remember the game well, Corey, was against Nebraska here in Kinnick. We had a really good corner on one side, and on the other side, they took advantage. They took their best receiver, who was an NFL receiver last year, I remember, and they lined him up against our young corner and took advantage of him, and it cost us in a major way. The point is, Nebraska was smart enough to go after the young, inexperienced corner. And then when we put in another young, inexperienced corner, they went after him too. That's smart football. And the lesson, the obvious question is, people might say, well, what can you do about it? Well, you can do one of 2 things. One simple solution is tell that better corner, if they're trying to match up their best receiver, who's clearly better than any other receiver they have, you simply let your corner travel with the better receiver, and you teach your corner how to play both left and right. That's one option. And if you're not capable of doing that, a simple solution would be you tell your less experienced corner, when you get this particular receiver, I don't care what kind of zone coverage we call, we're going to roll up over the top of that receiver. You're not going to defend deep. We're going to play what we would call cloud coverage. If you want to play 3 deep, you can play 3 cloud strong or 3 cloud weak. Doesn't matter. Wherever that best receiver goes to, we're going to roll up on him, and that safety to your side of the formation is going to play over the top, and we're still going to play 3 deep and behind. We're still sound. And now if we're exposed at all, we're exposed with their lesser receiver versus our better corner on the other side. That makes sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a simple thing to do. And, of course, you can roll up on both sides too if you want to play cover 2. But obviously there's some advantages to playing 3 deep versus 2 deep. But those are all things that I think you'll see going forward. And that's advanced football, clearly. But that's what Phil Parker did against Purdue years ago. He said, I've seen enough of that. We're not going to let you do that anymore. And if anything, I think similar circumstance, Phil will respond even quicker to it happening now than what he has in the past. Yeah. Because he's painfully aware that a good coach can take advantage of you in a short amount of time.